August 7th, 1942, Guadalcanal. The first American offensive in the Pacific had begun at dawn. Marines waded ashore under fire. Overhead, SBD Dauntless dive bombers from USS Enterprise patrolled the skies, supporting the landings. In the rear seat of one Dauntless sat Harold Jones, 21, from a small Iowa farm. His job was rear gunner, twin .30-caliber machine guns, eyes locked on the tail. His pilot, Ensign Robert Smith, flew straight and level. Their mission: keep the beachhead clear of Japanese aircraft. 560 miles away at Rabaul on New Britain, the Japanese air base buzzed with activity. At 608 A6M Zero fighters roared off the runway. Leading one section was Petty Officer Saburo Sakai, 25, already a legend in the Imperial Japanese Navy. Born August 16, 1916 in Saga Prefecture, he was the fifth son of a once samurai family reduced to poverty after the Meiji Restoration. His father died when he was 11. His mother struggled to feed 7 children. At 16, with no future in farming, Sakai enlisted in the Navy in 1933. He began as a gunner's mate on battleships Kirishima and Haruna, firing 14-inch shells in gunnery drills. He hated the monotony. He wanted the sky. In 1937, he applied to Naval Flight School. He failed the entrance exam twice. Math and physics tripped him up. On the third try, he passed. Training was brutal beyond imagination. Instructors broke trainees in wrestling matches. Swimming tests were designed to drown the weak. Failure meant public shaming and return to deck scrubbing. Sakai endured. He graduated first in his class of 1500. Emperor Hirohito personally pinned a silver watch on his chest and said, "Serve Japan with honor." By 1942, Sakai had flown in every major campaign: China in 1938-39, the Philippines in December 1941, the Dutch East Indies in early 1942, New Guinea in the spring. He mastered the Mitsubishi A6M Zero. Light, agile, armed with 2 20mm cannons and 2 7.7er machine guns. It could outturn any Allied fighter. Official records credited Sakai with 28 victories. His personal log claimed 64. He flew with calm precision, never wasting ammunition, always attacking from the enemy's blind spot. That morning, his squadron flew 4 hours from Rabaul to Guadalcanal. Fuel and ammo were low after engaging F-4F Wildcats over the island. In a 20-minute dogfight, Sakai outmaneuvered Lieutenant James "Pug" Sutherland of VF-5. Both pilots were exceptional. Sakai scored hits under Sutherland's left wing route. The Wildcats spun into the jungle. Sutherland parachuted safely and later became an ace. Sakai's wingmen were scattered or shot down. Alone, low on fuel, he searched for one last target. He spotted 8 aircraft climbing in formation below. Fixed landing gear, radial engines, he mistook them for F-4F Wildcats. He rolled into a high-side attack from the rear, the classic bounce. At 300 yards, he opened fire with cannons. Tracers walked across 2 SBDs. Then he saw the dive brakes, the greenhouse canopies, the rear gunners. Too late. 8 sets of twin .30 calibers erupted. The sky filled with tracers. Sakai yanked into a climbing turn, firing as he went. Bullets tore through his Zero, fuselage, wings, cockpit. One round shattered the canopy rail. Another severed hydraulic lines. A third, fired by Harold Jones, entered just left of the windshield, crossed the cockpit, and struck Sakai above the right eye. The bullet fragmented bone, destroyed the eye, and lodged in the skull. Blood poured. Vision collapsed to a red haze. Pain exploded like a bomb. The Zero snap-rolled, then nosed straight up, engine screaming. Sakai's body went limp. Harold Jones, 400 yards behind, saw the canopy shatter inward. He saw the pilot's head snap back, then slump forward. The Zero climbed vertically, apparently out of control. "He's dead!" Jones shouted over the intercom. The Dauntless formation broke off and returned to Enterprise. They logged 1 Zero confirmed destroyed. But Sakai was not dead. Consciousness returned in fragments. Blood filled his mouth. His right eye was gone. The left saw only crimson. The Zero was climbing through 8,000 feet. airspeed bleeding off. He grabbed the stick with shaking hands. For a moment, he considered diving into an American ship below, a kamikaze end. But no ships were in sight. Only jungle and endless ocean. Duty overrode despair. He was a section leader. His squadron needed experienced pilots. Japan needed them. Dying here accomplished nothing. He throttled back, leveled the wings, and turned northwest, toward Rabaul, 560 miles away. The Zero was damaged but flyable. Instruments were shot. Radio dead. Oil pressure flickered. He tied his scarf around his head to slow the bleeding. Pain throbbed with every heartbeat. He climbed to 6,000 feet to conserve fuel. He set the mixture lean, propeller at 2,800 RPM. He flew by sun, memory, and instinct. Every 10 minutes, he checked heading against the sun's arc. When clouds obscured the horizon, he flew by feel. Seat of the pants, thighs sensing bank. He passed out twice, waking to find the plane drifting toward the sea. He slapped his face, shook his head, recited his mother's lullaby to stay conscious. He thought of his wingmen, his duty, his life. He urinated in his flight suit to avoid leaving the cockpit. Salt wind through the shattered canopy kept him awake. At the 3-hour mark, a tropical storm loomed, towering cumulonimbus, lightning flashing inside black walls. Detouring would burn irreplaceable fuel. He flew straight in. Turbulence slammed the Zero like a toy. Rain lashed the cockpit. He flew by trim and feel, emerged 20 minutes later into clear sky, shaking but alive. 4 hours and 50 minutes after being hit, Rabaul's volcano appeared. Sakai circled once, lowered gear and flaps, and landed hard. The Zero rolled to a stop. Ground crew sprinted over, expecting a corpse. Sakai unstrapped, stood on the wing, and refused the stretcher. "I must report," he said, voice weak but firm. Blood soaked his flight suit. The scarf was a crimson bandage. He walked 200 yards to operations, boots squelching. Inside, he saluted his commander, delivered a full after-action report. Enemy strength, bomber tactics, his mistake, the dogfight with Sutherland, every detail. Only then did he collapse. Surgeons operated immediately. They removed bone fragments, drained fluid, stitched the wound. Infection set in. For 10 days he burned with fever. Nurses changed dressings soaked in blood and seawater. On day 11, the fever broke. On day 30, he walked. The right eye was permanently blind. Doctors declared him unfit to fly. Sakai began push-ups in secret. He spent 1943 in hospital and instructor duty. In June 1944, against all orders, he returned to combat, flying one-eyed over Iwo Jima. He scored 4 more victories, trained rookies, and flew until Japan surrendered in August 1945. Post-war Japan was ruin. Sakai married his pre-war fiancée, Ju. They opened a print shop in Tokyo. He hired veterans no one wanted, amputees, the shell-shocked, failed kamikaze pilots. He became a devout Buddhist and vowed never to kill again, not even an insect. The scar above his empty eye socket became his signature. In 1957, he wrote, "Samurai," a raw pilot's memoir. The Japanese edition sold modestly. In 1970, Martin Kaiden translated it into English. It became a sensation among American aviators. Letters flooded in. In 1970, the American Fighter Aces Association invited Sakai to San Diego, the only Japanese pilot ever. He stood on stage in a dark suit, silver watch gleaming. P-51 Ace Hub Zemke gripped his hand. "You wrote my war, only in a Zero instead of a Mustang." The room erupted in applause. Sakai wept silently. These men didn't see an enemy. They saw a brother in the cockpit. In 1981, historian Henry Sakita cross-referenced U.S. and Japanese records. He identified the Enterprise SBD squadron and the gunner who claimed the dead Zero, Harold Jones, now retired in Fresno, California. Sakita wrote to Jones, then to Sakai. Both agreed to meet, August 7, 1983, exactly 41 years later. A hotel near Los Angeles. Jones, 62, wore his old USS Enterprise cap. Sakai, 66, wore a suit and the silver watch. Sakai'da introduced them. Silence. Then Sakai bowed deeply. Jones extended a hand. They shook, firm, long, meaningful. Sakai opened a lacquered box. Inside, his leather-flying helmet from August 7th, 1942. The .30 caliber hole gaped above the right brow, edges blackened by gunpowder. Jones lifted it carefully. He aligned the hole with Sakai's scar. Perfect match. "I thought you were dead," Jones said, voice low. "I thought about dying," Sakai replied in careful English. "Then I thought about my men. About Japan. I had to try. They talked for 6 hours." Jones described the tracer storm, the Zero's impossible climb. Sakai described the storm, the lullaby, the 28,800 heartbeats it took to fly home. They laughed at shared absurdities, fear of sharks, peeing in flight suits, the terror of fire in the cockpit. Jones gave Sakai an Enterprise patch. Sakai gave Jones the helmet. Cameras flashed. A reporter asked Sakai if he hated the man who blinded him. He answered, "Hate is extra weight. I had 560 miles to fly. No room for hate." They became friends. They exchanged letters, attended reunions, spoke at aviation clubs. In 1995, they lectured together at the National Air and Space Museum. Jones told students, "He flew home with my bullet in his head. I'd have quit at 50 miles. Sakai told Japanese youth, "Never give up. Not to pain. Not to history." Sakai consulted on Microsoft's Combat Flight Simulator 2, tweaking the Zero's handling until it felt like 1942. He publicly criticized Japan's refusal to fully acknowledge its role in starting the war. Old comrades shunned him. He stood firm. Truth is heavier than silence. September 22, 2000. Atsugi Naval Air Station. The U.S. Navy hosted a reconciliation dinner. Sakai, 84, frail but proud, toasted in English, to enemies who became brothers. Midway through dessert, he clutched his chest. A heart attack. American officers carried him to the infirmary. He died at 2200, surrounded by men in dress whites who saluted a Japanese warrior. Few Japanese veterans attended his funeral. Harold Jones flew in from California, placed the leather helmet on the casket, and wept openly. Jones lived until 2008, dying at 88. The helmet stayed on his mantle until the end. His grandchildren still hear the story. One bullet, one impossible flight, one handshake. Sakai's message was always the same. Ganbare. Never give up. He proved it at 25,000 feet over Guadalcanal, bleeding, half-blind, refusing to die. He proved it again at 66, shaking the hand of the man who took his eye. War made them enemies for 5 hours. Peace made them brothers for 25 years. One mistake, one shot, 5 hours of agony. 41 years of reflection. And finally, respect. The sky is big enough for forgiveness.